harlot, yes, but a traitoress, never. Mata Hari during her trial for espionage. Quilla's book is not a history book, and in all honesty, we'll be pointing out quite a few areas of concern in the narrative. But historical fiction carries an important place in the study of history, as long as it's good historical fiction. Dry tomes full of dates and obscure names are excellent ways to keep facts straight. But what they do not do is relay the feeling of history. They're facts, they aren't stories. And the human mind needs stories to truly understand. Today we'll be going over pages 24 to 44. And as we say every season, there will be spoilers. We are discussing a book as if we have all read it together, and it's about a historic event that is well known. My not unreasonable assumption is that everyone knows who shot JR in the Mata Hari story. This portion of the book is still in the form of one of Mata Hari's last letters written to her lawyer, Gune, and intended to be given to her daughter. It deals in quick order with her time in Indonesia and then fast forwards to her divorce and the birth of the character Mata Hari back in Europe. Greet becomes Greta while in Indonesia, and the quick name change and pivoting is probably an illustration of how easily changing identity came to her. But although Indonesia would be the basis of her entire life after returning to Europe, it truthfully was a terrible experience. Her marriage was horrific for both partners, something well documented in their letters home. Greta laid numerous accusations of physical and mental abuse against Rudolph, and Rudolph's letters were literary rending of garments, referring to Greta's laziness, general dirtiness, and inability to watch her children. There were now two, a daughter and a son. And how am I to disentangle myself from such a floozy while keeping the children? Rudolph wrote to his sister. This will be very difficult, Louise. If I had the money to buy her consent, for this debauched woman would do anything for money. Their marriage was certainly not made any better when, in June 1898, the children became extremely sick and their son died. Greta writes in a letter that it was a murder, poisoning by one of the servants, and later recounts that the servant poisoner was murdered in turn by the other MacLeod servants. Official records do not bear out the diagnosis of poisoning. Records were kept which identified such cases, and Norman MacLeod was simply not on them. It's possible that it was a poisoning not recorded as a poisoning, but in the tense and fraught environment of the Dutch East Indies during uprisings and a war, rigid attention was paid to crimes committed or suspected by the local population against the colonial Dutch. A small notice of death was in the newspaper, but there was nothing else. Quilla's novel letter also spends time recounting an incident wherein Greta witnessed the suicide of the wife of another Dutch officer, as well as the jealousy the local wives displayed toward her. These were supposedly the things which made Indonesia too intolerable for her and triggered demands to leave. This is where Coelho's novel very significantly veers from fact. For one, the salacious suicide did indeed occur, but Greta didn't witness it. Nor was it the wife of a military officer. Rather, the wife of one of the plantation owners shot herself in a surfeit of misery. Nor was that event the catalyst for Greta's leaving, which was actually far more dramatic. The MacLeod marriage continued to deteriorate after the death of their son. Rudolph McLeod became more contemptuous and more violent, particularly after he retired from the army and the family moved to an even cheaper area of Indonesia to live in 1900. There are reports from this time of Rudolph mistreating Greta in public, but there are also interviews given long after her death in which people remember Greta as being so publicly flirtatious that it drove Rudolph mad with jealousy. There were even memories of Greta having affairs in Indonesia. Rudolph, too, was a cheater, but it was excused for men to have relationships with local Indonesian women and even to have a second family. But military wives in the Dutch East Indies were expected to deal with this, while also holding themselves to exemplary behavior. Greta was never able to do this. She wrote her father with many complaints, often quite shocking, and her father, a man who quite enjoyed litigiousness, forwarded correspondence to the officer of the justice in the East Indies. Greta claimed that Rudolph whipped her and threatened to shoot her, amongst other abusive behaviors. An officer was sent to check on the family, and Greta recanted what she had told her father to the officer. However, she wrote more letters to her father with increasingly desperate complaints. This is perhaps the problem of the woman who would become Mata Hari in a nutshell, and something Coelho's book manages to illustrate. The woman herself was an unreliable narrator with a passion for drama. There was most certainly abuse in her marriage. There was definitely tragedy and trauma, but it becomes difficult to separate the facts from her many fictions. In a later interview with G.H. Preem, the woman who became Mata Hari accepted more of the blame for her terrible marriage. She even admitted to stirring Rudolph up. A woman like me is quite unmanageable within a marriage, Mata Hari said. In 1902, the family returned to the Netherlands, and the marriage finally ended, although not as immediately as portrayed in the book. In Coelho's story, Greta leaves and flirts with a man at the French consulate to get her visa before heading to Paris. And then meeting the man who would launch her career by chance. At that moment, she became fully Mata Hari. In reality, Greta left for France, returned to her family, and then left again for good. Her daughter remained with Rudolph, and the two never saw each other again. Greta performed in a French horse circus, using the name MacLeod, as well as entertaining men who gave her gifts of money. She never considered it prostitution, and she liked sex, and money was a gift. Mata Hari was not created in a moment. She was an evolution. When asked in a later interview why she was drawn to France, she replied, "I don't know. I thought all women who ran away from their husbands went to Paris." And this is where we'll pick up the next bit of reading for Paulo Coelho's book, The Spy, about the life and death of the infamous Mata Hari. Next week's discussion will be about pages 47 to 68 of the book. And as a reminder, there will be spoilers as we discuss. See you next week in Mata Hari's Paris.
What to do